This is Fred Richani, TSC, your home for combat sports news updates, interviews, and everything in between. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Been a while since I've hopped on live to chat with you guys. Figured tonight would be a good time. UFC 240, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Max Blessed Holloway defending his featherweight crown against one of the greatest of all time and Frankie Edgar, the former lightweight champion. It's been 7 long years since the Toms River, New Jersey native held UFC gold. And hey, what better night to start than on a day actually proclaimed New Jersey Day? But unfortunately for Edgar, it was not to be. Max Blessed Holloway, I don't want to say cruised to a unanimous decision victory over the former champ, but he was never in any real danger. The final scores were 50-45, 50-45, 48-47. To Edgar's credit, he did go the distance. He did give Holloway some trouble, but he never really hurt him, never really put him in any danger. I can't say he won any rounds really convincingly. I think the only round he really won convincingly, or I don't want to say convincingly, but you could have really given it to him and said, yeah, that's an Edgar round. Probably round one, but I thought even in round one, when there weren't a lot of strikes thrown, that Max Holloway just threw the more effective strikes. And at the end of the fight, Max Holloway said, hey, I'll fight at heavyweight. I'll fight at lightweight. I'll fight at whatever freaking weight you want. Just keep the challengers coming. And, well, Edgar, unfortunately, at age 37, knowing he's probably not got too many title shots left in his career, was crying. He was embracing his young child, Santino. Pretty sad, but it actually was kind of eerily similar to when Max Holloway lost to Dustin Poirier a few months back, and you saw Lil Blessed in the crowd crying, and Holloway had to console him and tell him everything's okay. And to me, that was actually a worse beating than what Edgar took tonight. But Edgar definitely got busted up. His nose was bloodied. I mean, very reminiscent of the famous 2 Gray Maynard fights that he had. I guess technically 3, but the 2 ones that were really famous. And overall, here's how I had the fight scored. And yeah, I would have liked something a little more exciting. I think, some people expected more fireworks here, but you got to remember something. Edgar is really tough. You can't take him lightly. And other than this fight and a couple other fights, usually when his fights go to decision, they're pretty damn close, especially title fights, if anybody's ever seen those fights with Benson Henderson. So round 1, I thought it was super close, but I had Max Holloway getting the 10-9. I just felt like he had some more effective strikes. Round 2, Max Holloway blocked a bunch of takedowns, was working the uppercut and the jab all throughout the fight, and I had a 10-9 for Holloway. Had it 10-9 in round 3 as well. He really banged up Frankie Edgar at the end of round number 3, but Frankie Edgar finally had a successful takedown, I should say, and at the end of round 3. He had 7 takedown attempts up to that point. Finally got him down. I think ultimately he was like 1 for 12 in takedown attempts throughout the whole fight, which is definitely saying something because he's a hell of an MMA wrestler. Round 4, more of the same, 10-9. I mean, Holloway was really busting him up. And in round 5, I got Holloway again. Overall, 50-45 Holloway. He in round 5 especially, he didn't take his foot off the gas. Just kept pressing forward. And as the champ says, it is what it is. It is what it is for Frankie Edgar. It is what it is for Max Holloway. Not really sure who I'd like to see Max Holloway fight next. I mean, it would be kind of cool to do, I don't know if a dream matchup's the right word, but a unique matchup with him and Conor McGregor. He did fight Conor McGregor years ago and actually lost to Conor when I think he tore his knee up in that fight, that being Conor. But that was also a completely different Max Holloway than the Holloway we see today. That would be a fun fight, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. As for Frankie Edgar, Joe Rogan asked him if he's going to go down to bantamweight. Frankie said he's not done, but he doesn't know. He's got to reevaluate things. Edgar at bantamweight sounds like a great idea, and it sounded like an even better idea if he was 5 years younger. At age 37, going on 38, at bantamweight, I don't know about that. And while Henry Cejudo, while he's a tough guy, while he's somebody that needs to heal up and everything else, I don't know. I just don't know. I think to me he's a little too old for that. But then again, you'll get a guy like Uriah Faber who continues to defy time, and he keeps getting himself in position all throughout his career for title shots. But as we've seen with Edgar in recent years, and as we've seen with Faber in recent years, just because they get in contention doesn't mean they can get the job done at the end. And I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's definitely an uphill battle in terms of marquee names. He's obviously one of the marquee names in the lighter weight divisions of the UFC. So if you wanted to go to 135, I think they would try to fast track him to some type of title shot interim or otherwise. But I don't know. I think it might be the end of the road for Frankie Edgar. But I think he'll do at least one test cut to 135. I think he'll have at least one fight at 135. But if he loses at 135, I think at that point, if you're 37, 38 years old, you might be like, you know what? Why am I taking this damage? I'm already a legend. I got money invested in New Jersey and other sponsorships and other things I'm doing outside of the cage. Why take the damage? So we'll see what happens. But from what I do understand, BJ Penn is coming back. I don't even know the date of his fight. Honest to God, I don't even want to promote his fight. I don't even care. I think he's fighting Nick Lentz. I saw a tweet from TSN that said Dana White confirms BJ Penn's coming back. That's a guy who I don't want to see take any more damage, let alone fight. I don't know why the UFC is letting him fight. It's borderline criminal at this point. So, yeah, I thought I'd just throw in that tidbit there, but I don't really care for that fight, and I don't want to do my part in promoting it, so I won't say the date. I don't even remember the damn date. I can't keep up with all these UFCs. But in the co-main event, we had Chris Cyborg defeat a very game Alicia Spencer, a unanimous decision. Spencer was 7-0 coming into this fight. Really tough. Took Cyborg's best shots. Got her down at one point. Tied her up. But couldn't really do much. Didn't really land significant strikes. Cyborg won an easy decision. But, well, easy as far as how to score it. But it was not an easy fight. I mean, Spencer stayed in there. Afterwards, Cyborg called out Amanda Nunes. And it looks like they may do that rematch. Although, I believe this was the final fight of Cyborg's current UFC deal. So, it's up to both sides to get something worked out before they do that Nunes rematch. As for the rest of the card, not going to lie to y'all, while I did order this fight, I was watching another live event going on the WWE Network called Smackville, and I wasn't really interested in the undercard, and I feel like UFC right now is, on the pay-per-view side, has pretty much become boxing. You got one or two fights you're really interested in seeing outside of those big cards they do once a year during International Fight Week, and then the rest is some guy named Olivier Aubin-Mercier versus Armand. I don't even want to try to pronounce that name. And some other dudes. And look, with all due respect to all the fighters that were on this card and everything else, let's keep it real. The majority of these people have only heard of 3, maybe at most 4 people on this main card. A majority of fight fans did not order this pay-per-view. And what can you say? That's the state of the UFC right now. They got that big fat ESPN checks coming in. It's not contingent on just having one big star all the time. I'm sure ESPN Plus would certainly like UFC to have more than just one big star. That being John Jones right now. But as Max Holloway said, it is what it is. And as far as the next pay-per-view, our next pay-per-view coming up is UFC 241, August 17th. Daniel Cormier taking on Stipe Miocic, a rematch for the heavyweight championship of the world. I don't really see a point to this fight. I think Miocic lost pretty damn handily, right? First round knockout against DC, and yet he's just getting an immediate rematch. I know technically he's the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time in terms of, wins and successful title defenses and things like, well, okay, greatest up until Daniel Cormier of all time. But he lost decisively. And if you're Cormier, I mean, you've made money. You got money. You could afford to sit out. You could afford to do commentary, keep getting paid, maybe take a SmackDown Live commentary gig when SmackDown goes to Fox. And you could just chill and wait for Brock Lesnar. And if the Brock Lesnar fight doesn't happen, wait for John Jones to finally go up to heavyweight. Or just chill and retire. I mean, look, I'm sure he's going to do really well for this fight. I'm sure he's going to make at least $1 million for this fight. But, he is older. Stipe is younger. Stipe is still a very, very tough guy. And, again, one of the best fighters in UFC's history. So, I don't know. I feel like this is high risk, low reward by Daniel Cormier standards. But you never know. Maybe if he gets past the first round, we'll actually get a pretty entertaining fight. But folks, I want to hear from you. What do you think about UFC 240? What do you think about UFC 241 on the horizon? What do you think about some of the other upcoming fights coming up? In my neck of the woods in New Jersey, August 3rd, next weekend, we have Robbie Lawler taking on Colby Covington. Colby Covington was supposed to compete for the welterweight championship despite having some really boring fights and being a Chael Sonnen ripoff. We'll see if he can actually have an exciting fight against Robbie Lawler. I'm actually kind of disappointed they never did the Ben Askren rematch. And then after that, we have Shevchenko defending her title against Liz Carmouche, and that's taking place August 10th in Uruguay. So that should be pretty damn entertaining. And then we, of course, have UFC 241, Cormier versus Miocic. And this card overall looks a lot deeper than UFC 240 because the co-main event is Anthony Pettis against the returning Nate Diaz, Yoel Romero against Paulo Costa, and you got Derek Brunson fighting as well, Rafael Assunção, Corey Sandhagen. Yeah, you got some pretty good names on this card. Overall, John McDessie. Overall, you got more than 3 to 4 people have heard of on this card. So definitely an upgrade from UFC 240. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about this fight? What do you think about the current state of the UFC? What do you think about John Jones being accused of harming a stripper at a strip club and him claiming, oh, I didn't know that I was going to have charges pressed against me, or I didn't know about this case that allegedly occurred in April? Let me know. Leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this update, please like, share, take care, and until next time, everybody, as always, enjoy the fights.